Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about Chinese names. Chinese names are very different from English names in a lot of ways, but it's actually not too difficult to get a Chinese name for yourself if you want one. In Chinese speaking culture, typically names are 3 characters long. Sometimes they can be 4 characters long, and in Japanese I've seen names that are 5 characters long, but they're usually going to be about 3 characters long. And a character is what you might think of as symbol or a glyph or kanji, but when we're talking about Chinese, we usually use the word character. If you don't want to learn more about names in general, you just want to know how to create your own, you can go ahead and use the timestamps below. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Chinese names and Chinese culture. So for example, my Chinese name is Cao Meisun, and Cao would be the surname and Mason would be my given name. So in Chinese, the surname, the family name will come first, and then the given name will come right after. So typically the surname is 1 character long and the given name will be 2 characters long. So let's use China and Taiwan's, I think, most famous people right now, and that would be Xi Jinping. Xi would be his surname and Jinping would be his given name. I think the most famous person in Taiwan is actually not the president. It's probably the CEO of NVIDIA, and his Chinese name is Huang Renshun, and Huang would be his surname and Renshun would be his given name. Just like in English, surnames usually come from your parents, but unlike in English speaking culture, typically when people get married, they'll keep their own last name, but children will usually take the last name of their father, although in this case it comes first in their name. So what are different ways that people come up with their name in Chinese speaking culture? Well, the first and most common way, especially in Taiwan, is through fortune tellers. I'm not exactly sure how this is determined. If you're interested, leave a comment down below and maybe I'll do some more research about this and put it in another video. But I think it typically has to do with their birthday. So they'll be born, and then after they have a birthday, they'll go to a fortune teller and get a name that is considered lucky. So I think it's based off of Chinese numerology and astrology, but I don't know the details of that. I actually have been told before that my name is unlucky for myself based on my birthday, but it is what it is, I guess. Anyways, I think that's a very typical way that names are determined in Taiwan. I'm not so sure about China though. The second most common way I would guess is based off of the meaning of characters. And it's the same in English, how some names have historical meaning. In Chinese, there are common names, and then there's also, the characters themselves that are used to make up the name. Those will have an individual meaning as well. I can also use Xi Jinping as an example. Again, his given name would be Jinping, and Jin means to approach or close, and Ping means peace. So maybe his parents are hoping that he would have a peaceful life, that he'd be welcoming and peace. And for Huang Renshun, the first character of his given name, Ren, means kindness, and Shun means like merit or service. So maybe his parents were just hoping he'd become a good person. There are other kinds of Chinese names and titles and honorary names and things like that, but those are the 2 main ways that I have seen names been given in modern Chinese culture. So if you weren't given a Chinese name at birth, how might you get one? Well, the first way is not by creating one, it's by having one created for you. And that would be if you're like a famous person and Chinese media needs to refer to you in a way that other Chinese readers can read your name, they will just make a name for you. Usually this is done by having Chinese characters with similar pronunciation to that person's name in their native language. So for example, we can use the newly appointed mayor of New York City. Chinese media has given him a name as well. Zoran Mamdani, his Chinese name would be Zhuolan Mandani. Yeah, okay. Kind of hard for me to say a 5-character name because it's not very typical. Anyways, it's just meant to sound like the name that he uses in English. So Zoran would be Zhuolan and Mamdani would be Mandani. Another interesting thing about this is that they do not reorder the names. So like I said before, typically the surname will come first and then the given name will come next. In this case, they'll just use the order that they use in their native language. So for this one in English, Zoran would come first and then Mamdani would come next in Chinese as well. Also, if this person's Chinese name isn't like widely established already, or if it hasn't been referred to in the text already, usually it will be followed by parentheses containing that person's name in their native language as well. So in a Chinese newspaper, his name might appear like this. Okay, so if you weren't given a Chinese name at birth and you want a traditional 3-character name, how could you get one for yourself? There are really only 2 common ways to do this. The first way is similar to the last example, is to go based off of the pronunciation of your name in your native language. However, it's kind of tricky if you want to confine this to 3 characters. I was very lucky that my name in English is Mason, so it's 2 characters long, the same length that the given name needs to be in Chinese. So that's why my given name in Chinese is Mason. But if you don't have a 2-syllable name in your native language, there are a few workarounds you can do. One would be if you could shorten that down to a nickname. So for example, if your name is like Jonathan, shortening that down to John and translating that into 2 characters is way easier. If you can't shorten your name down to a nickname, you could also try finding characters that are longer, that could mix the sounds a little bit. This might be a little bit more difficult, but it could be possible in some circumstances. Another thing you could do is try to get it down to 3 characters. And if you could get your name down to 3 characters, that could just be your whole name. So you wouldn't have a Chinese surname. You would just have a 3-character long given name. I did have some friends like that in university. They had really long names in their native language. So they just used their first name, and people always just refer to them by their entire 3-character name. I've also left a link down in the description below to this website. It will convert commonly seen names into Chinese, and usually commonly seen names already have an established translation. So like there are famous Masons in the past. Usually their names are all translated the same way. You could do that as well to keep things consistent if you want a name like that. Okay, so if you have a 2-character given name, you will need a surname as well if you want that 3-character name. So with this, what most people will do is try to find a Chinese surname that has the same starting sound as their starting sound of their surname in their native language. So I'll actually just use Zoran Mamdani again as an example. So if you wanted to create a 3-character Chinese name, he's very lucky. His first name is already 2 characters long, so Zhuolan could be his given name. And for Mamdani, the first sound Ma, there actually is a Chinese surname Ma. So he could just use that as a surname. So his Chinese name, his 3-character name could be Ma Zhuolan. Funny story, my Chinese teachers actually asked me all the time because they knew my last name in English was Moss. Why is my last name in Chinese not Ma? Why did I use Cao? And that's actually because my brother was adopted from China. And before he was adopted, he was given an official name by the Chinese government. And the name that he was given, his surname was Cao. So when I was coming up with a Chinese name, I decided to use his. I thought it was kind of funny we could trade last names. So he uses my name in English, and now I use his name in Chinese. Anyways, another thing you could do if you don't want to convert your name into Chinese based off of your native language name, your name in your native language, is to try to get a name completely in Chinese. Usually you would do this by going to a friend or a family member or a teacher, somebody who already speaks Chinese, and ask them to come up with a name for you. Another thing you could do if you're in China or Taiwan is try to go to a fortune teller and get a name like the local people do. I don't think I know anybody who got their name based off of a fortune teller, at least foreigners, I mean, but I guess it could be done. Cool. So that's pretty much everything that I know about Chinese names and how to get one. And if you have any other questions about Chinese names or Chinese culture, or if you have any difficulties in creating a name for yourself, let me know down in the comments below, and I will try to help you out to the best of my abilities. If you're interested in Asian culture or any other random stuff that I do on this channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.